Welcome back to Currently Right Now, Wife, Mom, Me. This is your host, Ariane Mayweather, and this is the third part to the in-law conversation. Monster-in-law, mom in love, daughter-in-law, villain. And in this episode, we are going to wrap up how we can resolve conflict. Conflict within our families, from being the in-law that married into and being the in-law that gave birth to the person your new son-in-law or daughter-in-law has married. So the real goal is, do you want the relationship between your son's wife or your wife's husband to work? Do you, as a mother-in-law or father-in-law, do you want to have that connection with them? Because especially if you have a great relationship with your child, how do you and the in-law make amends? How do you resolve this? And I think when you put we before me, who's important in this situation? It's the person I love. It's the person I gave birth to. For that in-law coming in, the person that married your son or your daughter, it is the person they married. That is who's important. And the children, if there are any or will soon be children, those people are the most important people. And I guess in a better way is, do you care about being right? Or do you care about the love and the family and the memories, and not feeling awkward at holidays, not feeling awkward at, school events that have to do with the grandkids, not feeling awkward around birthday parties and, Sunday dinners, and basically being okay with having conflict and resolving them. Because at the end of the day, we know, hey, we had an issue, but we're family. We love each other no matter what, and we are going to get through this. So first things first, let's talk about, what are your needs? And this is just true as a human. What are my needs as a human? Do I need respect? Do I need love? Do I need communication? What are my core values as a human? Do I value treating people the way I want to be treated? And when you think about those things, if you're mature and you understand the way people work, the golden rule should always be set and standard for everything. Obviously, everyone doesn't come from that thought process. Everyone isn't raised that way. And a lot of people are nice, but a lot of people are not kind. I'd rather deal with a kind person all day long than a nice person. And when we understand that, when we expect things of people, we're going to be let down. So I guess your expectation should not have any expectations. People are people, and they're going to people all day long with all their trauma and with all their things that they have going on inside their head and all their preconceived notions and their hurt. And the sad part about that is how you would treat another person, especially if you live with the golden rule. If you're kind and you only have the best interests at heart, everyone doesn't move that. Some folks have a lot of trauma, whether it is via their childhood or the trauma and is so self-induced because of their anxiety and they're living in the future of the unknown. They put that off on others. So you have to understand that. You have to first understand, okay, I live this way. I move this way. I don't have ill will towards my new in-law coming in. I want them to get along with everyone in this family. I am the wife, I'm the mother, I'm the father, I'm the husband, and this is my child. I need my new daughter-in-law, son-in-law coming into this. I need them to understand that they are family, no matter what, and that I love them, and I love the children that they've helped bring into this world. So let's look at a few articles and figure out how we can resolve conflict if there has been any. So I'm looking at an article from focusonthefamily.com, and it talks about managing conflict within in-laws. So this is by Ginger Kolbaba. And this was done March 19th, 2024. So it starts off with a quote. You just don't marry your spouse, you marry their family, and that can be difficult. Learn how to set healthy boundaries and love your in-laws. So with that being said, conflict. For many people, conflict with in-laws is guaranteed almost as much as death and paying taxes. Very true. As newly married couples quickly discover, you don't just marry your spouse, you marry their family. That means you need to figure out how to manage conflict in a healthy way that honors all parties. Here are some tips that help handle clashes when they arise. So, set clear boundaries. I've said this if you've listened to any of the other episodes. I am big on setting boundaries. It's like fences. Fences make great neighbors. Boundaries make good people. It just is what it is. One, you have a set standard of how you carry yourself, what you expect of yourself, what you expect of other people. I know I just said you shouldn't have expectations of others, but I think if you set an expectation with how you handle yourself, 9 times out of 10, people will rise to that occasion. And if they don't, you know how to put them. So when you have a family, and let's say that they are, within a certain mile radius, or even if they're 30 minutes away, if that individual is single, prior to them getting married, as a parent, you do the drop in and drop out. Just like most kids, they come over unannounced. They usually have keys. They barge in, they go through your refrigerator, they do all that. Now, if you have a parent who tends to have a key, show up unannounced, but that is their thing with their child. Like, I come in. I feel like the newly married couple should set that boundary. If that bothers the new person coming in, if they're like, hey, your mom has a key or your dad has a key, I got home, they were here, I don't like that if I'm paying bills. I also do believe it's probably wise, if you're coming into a situation together, if you can possibly get your own home or own apartment together versus that person moving in. What it does is now, it sets up a standard of, this is our home, and the person who is the in-law, the mother-in-law or father-in-law, they're like, oh, they purchased this home together, or they got this apartment together. This is theirs. I have to be respectful, versus this is my daughter's home or this is my son's home. And keynote, if you are a young man or a man, and I would never move into a woman's apartment, I would never move into a woman's home. Don't do that, because most women are set up to fee, fi, fo, fum, and this they shit. And you and my stuff, you and my house, don't ever do that as a young man. If anything, have the woman move into your stuff, or you all get something together with both of your names on it. And if you can, and that person is paying the rent or the mortgage, and they can show for it, just because it sets a precedent as a man. As a man, you want to establish who you are, and you want that respect. Okay, let's get back to the conversation. So in this, on this website with this article, they give a story. Matthew's mother lived 5 minutes away from Matthew and his wife, Lily, so she would often drop by unannounced. One day, Lily was in the middle of cleaning for a party she hosted later that evening. Rather than communicate clearly to her mother-in-law that she was busy, she sat and fumed during the visit, feeling overwhelmed and stressed. Afterwards, she complained to Matthew. They decided to unite in their decision. They both communicated to his mother that she would need to phone or text before coming over, and that next time it happened, Lily didn't express her frustration. She simply explained, I love that you want to drop by. Unfortunately, now isn't a good time. But how about if we get together later this week for a visit? If your in-laws are behaving in a way that doesn't work for you, don't up the conflict level by having a tantrum. Girls, ladies, listen, I gave birth to the queen of tantrums. All my girls love to throw tantrums. I do it in such a subtle way. I don't think I've ever met a woman that does not throw a tantrum. Like, it's innate in us. We have little ways that we do them. It's not healthy. We think it's funny when they're 3 or 2 or 4 or 5. It's quite something to see a teenage girl throw a tantrum, let alone a grown woman. It is embarrassing. And I've had to catch myself at times when, I'm having a tantrum, and I do it in ways, but it's not cute So let's just own it and recognize it. So, anywho, like they said, in-laws are behaving in a way that doesn't work for you. Don't up the conflict level by having a tantrum. Instead, communicate with your spouse and work together to set boundaries. And then together communicate with your in-laws and keep those boundaries. Remember, their opinions are just that. Their opinions. Their opinions. So let's pause and let's go back a little bit. The setting the boundaries. Oftentimes, we as parents, we have these kids and we don't know what it's like when our kids set boundaries. But we often, more likely than not, set boundaries with our own children. If you're a healthy adult, you will. We set these boundaries with our kids and we tell them what they can and cannot do. Now they grow up, they're grown, they have their own space, their own home, and we just come in and we do the parent thing. We come over unannounced, we call, we do whatever we want to do, and then they get these significant others and they get married, and then we still want to do what we want to do. You can't. Whether or not that couple, your son and daughter-in-law or your daughter-in-law and son, maybe they don't care. Maybe you have such a chill daughter-in-law or such a chill son-in-law where they're like, I don't care if you come over unannounced. Don't make me none. Maybe they don't care. But you still should. Because if you have a key to their house and they're home in the middle of the day and they're procreating or trying to, and you've walked in on that, could you imagine how embarrassing it is? Or maybe you walk in on an argument that they're having that nobody should probably be privy to. That is why boundaries are good. So in the moment your child gets married and they're grown, you should in your mind say, you know what, they're married. We know they live up the street around the block. Let me call before I come, or let me send a text like, hey, are you guys free for me to come over? I want to chat, or I'm bored. I just want to come over and hang out, or I brought lunch, or I have dinner, or whatever the case may be, or I found this at the grocery store. I want to drop this off. And give and allow them to say, oh yeah, you're fine. Or you know what, right now is not the best time. I'm not feeling well, or I'm sleeping, or I'm in the middle of work, or if they just say, you know what, mom, dad, now's not the best time. And you can say, okay, great. I have whatever it is. I'll just drop it off on the porch, or I'll save it for tomorrow. It's good for that, because then you can establish that you're not trying to be overbearing. And I think when we have these kids, they think they belong to us forever, and they belong to God, but we want to do that for them. And you want to do that for yourself, because now you are avoiding, or not necessarily avoiding, you are putting measures in place so that you can avoid unnecessary arguments about popping up and doing what you want to do. And I think what tends to happen is we have ego and we have a spirit of pride that steps in. But if you could just take a step back and think to yourself, once upon a time, you were them. You were a young couple, you were married, and if you were fortunate enough to have parents or have in-laws, you didn't want them coming over and barging in, and maybe you didn't care. And maybe your spouse at the time, didn't care. But if you did care, you want to be that person where you're like, you know what? I didn't like it done to me, so I'm not going to do it to them. I think that is the best way to move. And then you avoid all these unnecessary situations, arguments, walking in on things or arguments that you shouldn't have been privy to. And everyone can lead a healthy life. That way, when they do come to you and express feelings or things, it's not built upon resentment of this incident prior to this. So it's always the best move. So the next statement is, remember, their opinions are just that. I know a lot of people have a hard time with that. You got to get really good at just ignoring people. What is the saying? Opinions are like a-holes. Everybody's got one. It's the truth. Everybody has an opinion. It doesn't matter. It's just that. So here's another little story. Joy and Steve were grateful that Joy's parents loved spending time with their 3 children, but Steve dreaded the continual parenting tips Joy's dad gave him. It felt like he thinks I'm doing everything wrong, Steve complained. Many in-laws like to freely share their thoughts, but it helps to think of their opinions as different, not right or wrong. Remembering that you don't have to agree, follow, or argue about them is also important. They're simply opinions. Now, my mother was great at this. She still is. She has an opinion and she thinks she's right. And she doesn't care if you disagree with her. She thinks she's right because guess what? Can't nobody outmother her. Nobody can outmother her. Nobody can outwife her. She's been doing it since the dawn of time. That's great for you. And that's great for the time and the age and when you raise children. That is not great for right now. That is not great for me and my personality or my husband's personality or these kids. So it sounds good when you say it out loud. It does. It sounds good. But I don't care how you feel or what you think. And you don't even have to say that out loud. And you can't. The problem is, I think we want to stop people from sharing their opinion and we want to feel like, well, I'm not sharing my opinion. Why are you? Everybody ain't you. And people will share their opinion, unsolicited or not. They're gonna. And I mean, you see strangers do it at the grocery store all day long. You have these Karens, whatever color they are, and they will intervene and they will share their opinion on you depending on what you're doing with your kid. And it is almost kind of like, who the F are you? Like, lady, I will slap the dog out of you. Mind your business. But at the same time, when it comes to our parents, we know they mean well. So I think if you could just kind of take a step back and you're listening to them and you're saying, okay, this is coming from a place of love. I know you think you're right. But, it is what it is. Because the moment, you are kind of ignoring them and their quote unquote opinion and you're more so like, I do what I want to do, people eventually hush. Or they'll, like my mom, they'll run their mouth and they're not going to hush, but it doesn't matter. You do what you want to do. So if you can kind of move through your life like that and just ignore the opinions and don't take anything personally, it does help. And parents, you're giving your opinion freely and then you're getting offended when it's not taken. I mean, you kind of had it coming because you should just hush and let them raise their kids. It's different if someone comes to you and they ask you, what do you think about this? But even in that, if you're being asked, what do you think? And you give your opinion, that does not mean they have to follow it. They don't have to. So just kind of remember that. Now, here's another statement. So make every effort to be kind. And I said this earlier. I'd rather deal with a kind person all day long than a quote unquote nice person, because nice people aren't kind. And a lot of people have being nice and being kind of muddled together. That is not true. God tells us to be kind. So being nice and being kind are two totally different things. And I think the best way, and what I tell people in the breakdown of being nice and being kind. So me being kind to you is telling you good morning, or if we work together. So we work together and I walk into work and I say, oh, good morning, how are you? And you're like, I'm fine, okay, pleasantries, whatever. Now, me being nice to you is, oh, good morning, how are you? I brought you a Starbucks. I'm being nice. I don't have to be. Maybe there's a motive, maybe there's not. Being kind to you is, you're going through something, I see you going through something, and I hug you. You see what I'm saying? So you have a neighbor, you see them walking, you offer them a ride because you're headed in the same direction. They're headed to the grocery store. Let me be kind. Oh, I see my neighbor walking. Where are you headed, Joe Blow? And they're like, oh, I'm going to the grocery store. Like, yes, I'm going to the grocery store too. Would you like a ride? Yeah, sure. They hop in, you give them a ride to the grocery store. It is what it is. That's being kind. Being nice is, I'm headed to the grocery, you're headed to the grocery store, I'm headed to the freeway. We are going in two totally opposite directions. I stop my journey from going to the freeway and I ask you where you're going and you say to the grocery store. I reroute, take you to the grocery store and drop you off. I'm being nice. I don't have to be. I'm being nice. I just went out of my way. I'm being nice to you. I don't owe you nothing, but I'm being nice. We owe people kindness, because we want people to be kind to us. So make every effort to be kind, if possible, so far as it depends on you. Live peaceably with all, says Romans 12:18. This is especially true as it relates to in-laws. It's always best to remember that they play a significant role in your spouse's life. So even if they are difficult to get along with, they still deserve respect. Going into a conflict with metaphorical guns ablazing is not going to win any battles. That means you may need to bite your tongue at times. And when you don't need to speak, ask yourself, will my words honor this person? Be kind in your interactions. Such kindness will help pave a smoother road toward getting along and even appreciating one another. Now, let's think about this. Let's say feet have been stepped on. Issues have already happened. Now, the way we can resolve this is if we sit down, maybe possibly have a mediator, and everyone speaks their piece. At the end of the day, you can't change the past, and people's feelings get hurt. And sometimes people get offense and take offense to things that they necessarily shouldn't. And if you are married to someone and their parent and them have conflict, somehow or another, you find your way in it. I don't like to do that, because at the end of the day, I'm thinking, yeah, me and you are one. If we're going by the biblical stance on marriage, me and you are one. We should be married together for forever. You and your mom or you and your dad have a conflict, I'm not getting in that. Like, I'm not. I mean, I can assist in talking to you about what took place and how you can maneuver and circle around the drain, and maybe how we avoid this and how we get back to the place we were, and offer my opinion if you want it. But I'm not gonna bear arms with you and link up and be like, yeah, F your mom, F your dad. No, I'm not doing that, because y'all are that person brought you in this world. More than likely y'all are gonna get over it. Now, if it's gotten physical and ugly and we need to set other boundaries where it's like we're not dealing with them anymore, okay, that's fine. And then if there are children involved and something terrible has happened, that's a different story. But we're talking about healthy, natural conflict that arises between humans. I'm not getting in the conflict with you and your mama or you and your daddy. Like, I'm not doing it. What I can do is respect you as my spouse and say, okay, well, how long are you not talking to them? I can still carry on. Now, if you want some, they can't come over here type mess or whatever the case is, maybe a break is good for everyone. Maybe we take a break. However, we got to find a resolution. We need a resolution to this so we can get back on one accord, because at the end of the day, I need my parents, you need your parents, and we need each other. And if we have kids involved, they need their grandparents. I don't care how anybody feels. You think you got it all, and you could be grown as shit, and you could be 45 years old. At some point in time, you're going to need your parents. At some point in time, you're going to need your kids. I don't know why people go through this world and go through life and think that they don't need anybody. It's quite insane. It's one thing if you've been on your own and you are, an orphan or whatever, and you don't have anyone. But 9 times out of 10, you have friends and you lean on those friends. And it's okay to lean on people. It's not okay to take advantage, but it's okay to have relationships where you cultivate this environment where when you need me, you call me and I can be there for you. So managing conflict, resolving conflict is always best. Sometimes it could be a few months before we could get back on track, but the goal should always be we over me. It should be, you know what? I have messed up, whatever party this is. I got to fix it and come to it with a real, genuine, and sincere apology. I did this. I messed up. I want to fix it. Now, the same goes for the person. You got to learn to accept apologies. And you know what? You don't have to. Let's do that. You don't have to. But if this involves your spouse or this involves your child, it's going to be hard on everybody if you don't. That doesn't mean you have to go back to the way things were. You just find a new way to all go along to get along. But you should always, if that person comes to you sincerely and says, I messed up, I did that, I take full accountability to my role in it, and I want to rewind the clock, or I want to start over new, you should always give that person the same grace you ask God to give you, and start over. Because it sucks when people are at odds with one another, especially if you're married to them, or especially if you've given birth to them, or it could be a sibling issue. Like, if my husband and my brother have an argument, or if my sister and my brother and my husband have an argument, I don't want that, especially if it's stupid and trivial. And oftentimes people find fault in other people because of whatever's going on deep inside them. Therapy. Go get some help. And you have to realize too, I think, when we're married, depending on the relationship you have with your parents, we talk and we overtalk and we talk too much. And that can most definitely cause conflict where there shouldn't be any. And you and your spouse and how you perceive your parents could be laying in bed and you could be talking big shit about your parents. Your spouse, as a spouse, if your husband or wife is talking mess about their parent, that doesn't give you legal right to chime in and feel the same way. Whatever their experience is with their parent is just that, is their experience. Don't take it upon yourself to get involved with that if it's not harming anyone. People move the way they move. They have their parents, or whatever the case is. Now, when you and your spouse have conflict, please don't go to your parents, and especially if they're not good at helping resolve conflict. But don't go to your parents and just start talking shit about your spouse. Because guess what? 2-3 days later, or the next day, y'all are going to be skipping through a field of daisies, and now your parents now have fault within your marriage and with your spouse, because they love you. You're their child, and you didn't came over and you didn't talk mess about your spouse to them, and now they have band together and they're like down with so and so, and now you and your spouse are happy and you guys are back great, but your parents now have fault with them. You have to be very mindful of those things. You shouldn't be telling your parents anything that is unsavory about your significant other, especially if you know for a fact you're not going nowhere. Like, we're not talking about anything crazy. And even if it is something crazy and you're not going anywhere, do your best to keep them out of it. Now, this is not young teenagers. We're talking 21 and over. And I'm not talking about anything toxic or hurtful. But I think we have a tendency, especially when we're close with our families, to share things that are happening. And then we're confused when our siblings, or when our mother and father don't like our spouse, because we've shared something with them and we can't understand why they can't move past it. Well, they're not married to your husband or wife. They're not. So they have found fault and you've given them that, and now they don't know how to unsee it. I know someone who did this, shared their issues about their husband to their family. And unfortunately, this man couldn't catch a break if he wanted to, because of the way the wife did that. And the problem is, the wife is in the situation, has found comfort in talking about the husband, because, I don't know, you won't go get a therapist or whatever the case is, but you talking to your family, your mother, your father, or your siblings about your spouse ain't gonna change them. And if you're with someone and you are having issues and they're not changing, maybe pray and ask God to change you so that you can figure out a way to help rearrange or work this situation. You should always, if you are a believer, if you are a praying man or woman, go to God. God can change them. God can fix it. God can rearrange your marriage and make things happen. Your family cannot. And if you are using them to vent and unload, shame on you, and you need to stop, truly. So I found this on Google, and it talks about, handling conflict. So it says open and honest dialogue is crucial for conflict resolution with in-laws. It involves expressing feelings clearly, actively listening, and maintaining respect. So let's talk about that actively listening part. I know some of you are like, well, I active listen all the time. No, you don't, because I don't at all. And my kids are very clear with me when we talk about active listening, and they just tell me all the time, can you just listen and don't talk? And I think as times, as humans, we're so anxious and thinking about what it is that we want to say versus just listening to the person who's talking. Active listening and how to do so. Pay close attention to what others are saying, both verbally and non-verbally. So non-verbally meaning, their composure, their hand movements, how they use, tilt their head, and just look at their body and look at the way they're saying the things that they're saying. Reflect back on what you hear to ensure understanding and validate their feelings. So someone is upset, they're telling you how they feel. So, they tell you, I hate it when you serve me blue ice cream. I love pink ice cream. And it just really bothers me and upsets me. This is just an example. So it's, hey, Ariane, I hear exactly what you're saying. You're telling me I always serve you blue ice cream when you specifically ask for pink ice cream. And that bothers you. And I hear you. I understand what you're saying, and I apologize. Other than not serving you blue ice cream, what are other things I can do so that we can understand one another, so that I'm not trying to upset you? That is how you active listen. You hear what they have to say, use their name, repeat it back to them, and then offer, what is it now that you like me to do? I hear where you're coming from. How do you want to fix this? So establishing ground rules. Set clear expectations for respectful and honest communication. Encourage individuals to express their thoughts and feelings without interruption. Hey, Ariane, I am here to talk to you. You've expressed that you're upset about something. I want to hear what it is that you have to say. I'm not going to interrupt you. Can you please share with me? As long as that person isn't dropping, I guess if you cuss when you talk, not in a way where it's like you're cussing at someone, but you tend to use cuss words. I do a lot, working on that forever and a day. Ashanti likes to remind me I have 50 cents in the cuss jar. But anywho, as you're talking and you're expressing yourself and just keeping it on what the issue is. This happened. I didn't like the way that it made me feel. I didn't like it. Now, empathy and understanding. So recognize that people's perspectives are shaped by their own experiences and emotions. Try to see things from their point of view, even if you don't agree. If someone did something or something occurred and happened or y'all talk, I don't have to agree with the situation. I don't. But I do have to respect you in the moment because I do love you. If there is love there and there's a relationship there. I don't have to agree with the way that you raise your kids, especially if they're not hurting themselves or anybody else. I don't have to agree with that. But I do have to respect you as a mother or father and how you raise your children. So this next one here is use I statements. Express yourself clearly. Use I statements to express your feelings and needs without blaming others. Be direct but kind when communicating your concerns. So you would say, you know what, Ariane? I don't like it when you are constantly telling me how to mother my children. When I am putting them to bed at 7:30 and then you are expressing to me that I am wrong for doing that and that maybe their bedtime needs to be 9 o'clock because, they were over at your house, Grandma, and they want to watch said show. But you have to remember, my kids go to bed at a certain time because I have to get up and go to school. So when you're trying to tell me how to parent my child, I don't like that. It upsets me. And I don't want to have conflict with you, but I also need you to understand that these are my children, and me and my husband or me and my wife have set the rules in this house for a particular reason. So maintain respect. Even when disagreements arise, treat everyone with respect and avoid making personal attacks. So in the midst of, me telling me that I don't like the way I parent my kids, I don't get to say, I think you're a fucking idiot and look how you raised your son. So why would you expect me to do the same thing? Because you clearly don't know what you're doing. You raised an awful son, and now I'm married to him. So why would I even listen to you for parenting advice? Like, no, don't do that. Like, we could have our opinions about things. We can have our opinions about, our significant other and how they were raised or whatever the case is. And even when we hear stories about how our husband or wives were raised, and we're thinking, yeah, when we get married and have kids, or when we have kids, we're not doing that stuff. But in the midst of everything, you don't get to attack people because you are upset. And if you're really, truly that upset, maybe take a moment, take a break, and maybe don't have the conversation right then and there. Sometimes it helps if you write your thoughts and feelings out, text yourself. That way, when it comes time to talking about it, you're not as upset because you kind of got your feelings out and you've have time to reflect on what it is that is happening. Seek clarification. If you are unsure about someone's feelings or intentions, ask for clarification. This can help prevent misunderstandings from escalating. I love this. Unfortunately, we do have to remember that everyone isn't honest, even when you can read through their BS. So if I've had a mishap with an individual, and intuition is something else. You can kind of read the room and read people very well. I especially believe this to be, if you pray every day, God will just give you wisdom and discernment to understand things. But you have to remember, in asking someone, like, hey, let's talk about what happened the other day. I feel like maybe I stepped on your toes, or you made this remark, or this is happening. And I just want to make sure we're on the same page. And I want to make sure and understand you, because I feel like now we have a problem. Understand that person's probably not going to be honest with you. And even in the midst of them not being honest with you, you still don't get to call them out like, bullshit, I know you're not being honest with me and how you feel. I know you don't like me no more. Who cares if they don't? If that person doesn't have the balls to state exactly what is happening or what took place, or be honest about why their feelings towards you have changed, that's on them. If you call yourself an adult and you are now having conflict with your son-in-law or your daughter-in-law's spouse, or you're having conflict now with your mother-in-law or father-in-law, and you ask them very clearly, what did I do because I've noticed something, and you can't be honest with that and say, you know what, this is what it was, and this is how I feel, and then allow that person to explain their side, or explain, well, maybe this took place and I wasn't necessarily thinking about you. It wasn't done intentionally to harm you. It wasn't ill-spirited. You have to understand that everybody ain't mature. And it's sad that, there are 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 70, 80-year-olds walking around with that age on their driver's license, but in turn, they really act like they are 12 years old. It is quite something to see. And if you are that problem, and when you are confronted directly, what is the issue, and you can't, honestly answer without being disrespectful, or honestly answer in fear of the response, you're a child and you need to go get help. It is not okay. But you know what? Some people don't want to grow up, can't grow up, won't grow up, and it just is what it is. So, Now, lead by example. When leaders or other influential figures demonstrate open and honest communication, it sets a positive tone for others. So you find that in life, as parents, our kids are bringing these people to us. They're watching us. They're, depending on the conversations that have been had with your child and them, they are trying to understand us, get to know us. They're like, oh, my girlfriend or my wife said that her mom or her dad, they do this. I'm really, I admire them for that. And then when they get to know you, and your actions meet your words, you can gain respect and garner by that. People have their own notions about people, and you could be the best person in the world, and depending on how someone is raised and how they feel about things, they may not feel that way about you. But when you lead by an example that you've set, and you've set standards for yourself, and you've set standards for how you conduct your relationships and how you are to be treated and how you treat others, people more than likely follow the same tune. Often I find those who don't is because they're operating with a different agenda and they don't mean well. Considered outside help. Now, if conflicts are just so bad, if they're so severe or difficult to resolve, consider seeking, counseling from a qualified professional, maybe a pastor, maybe go to family therapy. It might be wise and helpful for everyone in the situation. I know I probably beat this, horse with a stick, but therapy really is wonderful. It is nice. You get someone who, they're a non-biased party. They can weigh in on the situation. They can give you tools to help you, to help the situation, to help you understand one another. It is a great thing, but honest to goodness, it shouldn't get that far to where we're sitting in therapy because one person is offended or whatever the case may be. But if you are, an open mind, a willingness to change, a willingness to want the relationship to be better is always wise. Sometimes people just need that. And sometimes it may take another person to help another person understand that they're nuts. Yeah, you're the problem. And I'm the problem now because I keep playing this game with you when I shouldn't. So be flexible and willing to compromise. Not every conflict can be resolved perfectly, but being open to compromise and finding solutions that work for everyone can strengthen relationships. And at the end of the day, that's all it really matters. That's all that matters. How do I get along with my child's spouse? How do I build the bridge back to my son-in-law? How do I build the bridge again to my daughter-in-law? How do I build the bridge to my father-in-law or mother-in-law? How do we find a medium, understanding and compromise so that we can get together and be nice to one another and be kind to one another and create these memories for these grandkids or these future grandkids, or for nonetheless the person I married, because I love my husband. I love my wife. I love my family. At the end of the day, I don't have to look at my in-laws as my actual parents. And for the mother and father-in-law, you don't have to look at the new daughter-in-law or son-in-law like your actual child. Yes, would it be great if you all had the best relationship in the world and it would be like a new daughter that you never had or a new son that you never had? But you have to be realistic, drop the expectations, and respect is the best way to go. So when you stop worrying about everything and don't focus on who's right, would you rather be right or would you rather have a positive relationship? Don't try to change the other person. They are who they are. Accept what is, move forward accordingly so everyone can get along, because at the end of the day, it's better to be able to sit in the room and be able to be cordial, have great conversation, than for everyone to be sitting there and being uncomfortable and praying and waiting for the day to end or the activity to end. And at the same time, you want to be able to look in the mirror and feel proud of who you see and who you are, and knowing that you extended the olive branch and your arms are wide open to bring this new person into your family, and vice versa. You want to make sure that the person that you married, that their family knows that you want to be a part of their family. And at the end of the day, even if you don't, it's better to just get along, especially if there are children. It's a tough dynamic, but you have to balance it, and you can sustain and get through this, because we're human. No one is perfect. But I think when we focus on, it's best to just try to be a family and understand that there are ups and downs when it comes to people. But the person I love, I want to love their family. And even if we don't see eye to eye on things, I want to get along. I want them to have a great relationship with my kids and vice versa. So with that being said, I bid you all adieu. And I hope these tips and this conversation has helped anyone who is currently going through it or struggling with their in-laws. It can help you all find a new way forward. And I pray that everyone puts their pride aside, puts their ego aside, and just comes together to have a betterment so that the family can truly grow in love. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys next week.